Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the latest harebrained scheme to solve the Northern Ireland Brexit trade issues from a Brexiteer as promoted by the Daily Express. They're always good for a laugh. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the headline goes like this. Article 349 could finally end UK and EU chaos. Now, where have we heard that before? Some obscure article of either EU or WTO rules allows us to solve the problem that the sharpest legal minds in both the EU and the UK were unable to solve to everyone's satisfaction. Well, if only they'd read this piece of legislation that some unqualified Burke from the Brexit camp was absolutely convinced would deal with the whole issue. And we've had it before, haven't we? You remember when Jacob Rees-Mogg was banging on about GATT 24? This would allow us to trade freely with the EU. No barriers at all for 10 years, even if we don't agree a deal. Even in a no-deal Brexit, we still get 10 years. So how can we have major trade barriers in place then, Moggy? Where's all this free trade that GATT 24 promised us for a whole decade, no matter what sort of deal we struck, even if we struck no deal at all? Could it be that you were talking out of your top hat by any chance? Then the same Lord Snooty also tried to tell us that physical checks wouldn't be needed anyway because of the technological solutions already in use around the world. Well, where are they? I mean, Rees-Mogg is now a senior member of the government. He attends cabinet meetings. We're facing economic hardship because of our inability to carry out the necessary checks on goods. He attends cabinet. Why doesn't he tell his colleagues about all these technological solutions? Why don't we just use those? Is it because they don't actually exist? Is that it? And now we have another Brexiteer, different one this time, saying that Article 349 of the Treaty of the Function of the European Union holds the answer. We don't need the Northern Ireland Protocol. That the finest legal minds in the UK and the EU agreed was the only way to achieve Boris Johnson's political aims with Brexit. We can just use this piece of EU legislation that EU legal experts just hadn't thought of. You may be forgiven for thinking this is going to turn out to be another GATT 24. Another uneducated reading of an obscure legal text which to the untrained eye and someone completely ignorant about customs procedures and wider issues sounds like it might be useful. If you are thinking that, you're not actually right, because this is even worse. But still, we must go through the process. See, I suppose you might also smell a rat if the Express are hailing this as a great Brexit breakthrough, but it seems strangely absent from the pages of all of the other British and European media. I mean, this would be a godsend for everyone. The UK government would love it if some acceptable alternative to the Northern Ireland Protocol existed. Of course they would. The Northern Irish Assembly certainly would. The EU absolutely would. Maros Sefcovic is the Vice President of the EU Commission, for goodness sake. The EU have a lot of pressing problems right now, and they don't need a childish UK government to be one of them. He would love to be able to stop wasting his days on this nonsense. But for those who aren't away, you know, the Express, how do we describe this? Because I have to talk about it quite a lot. It's not the most serious of papers. For example, when reading the article, like, you know, as you would see on the website of papers, you've got other headlines, you know, to articles you may wish to read. And I came across one little gem on that list of other articles. Headline: Keir Starmer admits deliberate plot to oust Boris using careful PMQ's attack. I mean, what a scoop. The leader of the opposition is trying to remove the Prime Minister from office with the cunning use of clever questions. What an absolute outrage. Can you believe it? But this is the level. That is the sort of rag that the Express is. It exists to stoke outrage and distract people from the evils of the Conservatives. But anyway, onto this claim from a Ben Harris Quinney, who is chair of a Tory think tank. He claims that Article 349, which we'll get onto, means we could move the checks from the Irish Sea to other parts of Britain and between Ireland and France. Stop laughing. Okay, let's go through this. First of all, moving them to other parts of Britain. Right, sure. If you can carry those checks out somewhere that isn't Northern Ireland, yeah, that could ease off some of the political tensions. But it makes the trade problems even worse. See, the thing is that we have customs checks inside the UK because Boris Johnson split the UK into two different customs areas due to his Brexit. If we move the checks further inland, we will be expanding the EU customs area inside the UK. This is a complete non-starter. I mean, we could have had the whole of the UK in the EU customs area and that would have been fine. That would have solved all the problems. But the Brexiteers don't like that. You know, I mean, never mind needing to check on goods moving from, say, Manchester to Belfast. You might need checks on goods going from Leeds to Manchester. How exactly does that make anything better? This aspect of Brexit is so prickly because we have checks on goods passing from one part of the UK to another. His solution appears to be having checks on goods passing from one part of Britain to another, even one part of England to another. Then the second part. He is reported as saying that it actually makes sense for trade checks to place between Ireland and France. Now, this is a nonsense, obviously, for so many reasons. Like, one, what you're saying is that there should exist checks on goods between two EU countries just to save the blushes of the UK, who lied about the consequences to a British population who never would have voted leave if they understood what it meant. I mean, this isn't just dumb. This is morally repugnant. Secondly, onto the dumb. Ireland is a member of the EU, so it has market rules that it shares with the rest of the EU. So let us just say that Ireland was willing to go, okay, yeah, we're fine having checks on our goods passing to the rest of the EU, say via France, which it wouldn't because it takes away a huge benefit of actually being an EU member. But let's just say, you still have to have checks in the Irish Sea because Ireland has different rules to the UK. It's a different customs area. It still needs to secure its own internal market against UK goods that do not meet its standards. So even if you're bloody minded enough to think that EU countries should have to put themselves out just to cover for the lies of Brexiteers like this Harris Quinney prick, it doesn't actually work anyway. But he's brought up another spurious article. I suppose we need to check it out as well. Fortunately, it's not a long one. It doesn't take very long at all, in fact. And sure enough, he's talking absolute crap. Now, the article in question, so yeah, you look at it, yeah, this is for covering unusual customs arrangements. However, there are a number of aspects to it, and it only has so many aspects, it's like a few lines really. But there are a few aspects which make it completely unsuitable and obviously unsuitable. First of all, it states very clearly this is for covering very remote areas. Northern Ireland is not remote. It is actually welded to the EU. 2, it works for very small provinces. Now, what that means is flexible arrangements with a really small area are easier because their economies aren't large enough to upset the balance. You know, if there's a few things get passed from outside the single market to inside the single market from such a small area, it's not going to really cause a major problem. The UK is not a small operator. We have the capacity to flood the single market if there are no adequate checks in place. You know, so this, up until this point, the article is really clear that it's talking about tiny, remote areas. We are neither tiny nor remote. And then third, it actually lists the provinces this article covers. It doesn't even just say, oh, if it's an area that meets these specifications, then it can cover it. No, it lists them. It's an exhaustive list. As I said earlier, I could sort of get someone reading GATT24 and with an ignorance of wider issues and a limited understanding of, words, might imagine that it would have been helpful in our post-Brexit future. This is unfortunately the problem when you read, say, a piece of legislation. You can read it and go, oh, it allows us to do this thing. And where legal expertise and legal training comes in is you can be aware that there'll be another piece that adds further context to it and changes that meaning, So, but I could sort of get someone reading GATT24 and go, oh yeah, it could do this. It's like, no, but you could see it. I would still say, not finding a single legal expert who will agree with you should have still turned you off the idea, but still. But this tiny article has absolutely nothing to latch onto. I mean, it's no wonder the Express couldn't actually quote any of the article, because I read the article before I looked up the article in the Express, that is, before I looked up the article in the EU treaty, and I thought, well, isn't it odd that they're not able to quote any of it? Like, what are they talking about here? Am I going to have? I was imagining having to read this huge thing and trying to work through it myself. It's actually quite a small thing. None of it would be suggestive of a solution to the Northern Ireland Protocol at all. Not one line could even out of context make you think, oh yeah, this could work. But it is important to discuss these things, because as we saw with GATT24 and the technological solutions and others, Brexiteers will bang on about these things. And if they're not countered, they can take hold. But I mean, there it is. It's absolute crap. No surprise, really. If there were a more elegant solution, and given that the UK government, the Irish government, the Northern Irish Assembly and the EU Commission would all want a more elegant solution, given that they can't find one themselves, I rather think, the legal brains would have found it if it existed. Not some Brexiteer whose background I can't even easily discern, but I'm guessing it's not going to be in European law. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.